The UK has loads of interesting places to live, and Ian and I have long been intrigued by those old buildings that were formerly other things and then were converted into domestic dwellings. We're suckers for all those television programs where crazy DIYers take on some dilapidated old building and try to convert it into a family home. So as we were spending our 12 months trying to find a flat to buy in England, as we talked about in last week's video, there were a couple properties that were quite fascinating that we almost bought. So what I wanted to do in this video is just show you a wee peek at those two properties and the towns that they were in so that you could get a feel for some of the other more unusual things we could have done in buying our flat in England. The first property was in an old mill that was part of the Stroud textile industry hundreds of years ago. It is located in Gloucestershire near the charming towns of Nailsworth and Minchihampton. And the flat was actually located next to the water, and across that lake is where Princess Anne lives, if you can believe it. So that's the first place. The second place was in a town called Fairford, which is not in the Cotswolds, but is just south of the border of the Cotswolds, AONB. Also, it's in Gloucestershire, and the home we were looking at was a former police station. I really wanted to live in that building with the huge logo of the Gloucestershire Constabulary on the side of it, but that didn't work out. However, even though we ended up not getting that home, we did want to go to Fairford and check out the place because we kind of fell in love with it as we were doing research to put an offer in on the home. So come along with me as I take you to Fairford, home of the old police station, as well as Longfords Mill, to look at the flat we almost bought in each of those locations. Here is the fabulous market town of Fairford. It's known for its air show, which happens every July, and for the RAF base, which is nearby. The town is also known for its amazing wool church. I'll show you around this charming town center and then pay a visit to the famous church before we go see the flat we almost bought. The town is replete with lovely old pale Cotswold stone buildings. I'm a big fan of this old post office, which is now a coffee shop. It was fun to see in person all the places we scoped out on Google Street View when we decided Fairford would be a nice place to live, like the local Chippy, the highly rated Italian restaurant on London Street, and the takeaway spots for curry, pizza, and kebabs, as well as Chinese takeaway and a wee supermarket called Londis, conveniently located just a few steps down the road from the place we almost bought. Now let's walk over to the church. The exterior of this pristine specimen of perpendicular architecture is gorgeous, but it's the windows inside that make it famous. But first, I must show you this door. Are you like me? Do you love a giant old door with a wee door inset within it? Just brilliant. Speaking of brilliant, look at this massive wall of stained glass. St. Mary's Church is renowned for having the most complete set of medieval stained glass windows in Britain. These 28 windows tell the story of the Bible in vivid color and artistry. Back in the time over 500 years ago when these windows were installed, it was a blessing to the mostly illiterate population to have these stunning windows to take inspiration from the stories and messages of the Bible. This was made possible by the wealthy wool merchants who donated the money to have opulent wool churches constructed, like this parish church in Fairford and others around the Cotswolds. The original church here was built in the 11th century, but the church was completely rebuilt in this current style in 1490. During the Reformation and the Second World War, these windows were removed and stored for safekeeping. I'm grateful for this, so that this national treasure can still be viewed today. I loved a lot of things about Fairford, but the thing I probably loved the most was how friendly the people were. The volunteers at the church were so kind in graciously explaining the history of the church. And even just walking down the street, a group of elderly ladies started talking to us and we had a lovely chat with them. At the edge of town, along the River Colne, is this old mill, which is a place you must visit if you go to Fairford. It is just an idyllic setting. And as you'll see from this footage, even the ducks were friendly. And unlike in other of my travel vlogs, I'm pleased to report that none of them bit me. Now for the reason we came to Fairford, a peek at the old police station that we made an offer on. And here next to the library was this housing complex, and on the end, the old police station. Right across from the traffic calming curb that makes people take turns. So there's the old police station. And here, a few steps away, would have been the library and the old schoolhouse, which that would have been really fun to have a library, so convenient. We made the offer and it was accepted. We were thrilled. But then we had some friends from Swindon come walk through the property, and we discovered that it really did not suit our needs. Some things were not as they appeared to be in the description on Rightmove. Sometimes converting a building which was not constructed for residential use into a family home has big challenges, and this conversion did not transform the building as much as we would have needed in order to live there. But I am still massively in love with the Gloucestershire constabulary crest set in stone on the side of the building. That alone was motivation enough for me to want to buy it. But in the end, I had to make the practical choice to let this one go and find another flat that better met our requirements. Before we leave Fairford, I have to show you one more thing. While our almost home was called the Old Police Station, it actually was built in the 20th century. But elsewhere in town is the prior police station. This grand structure was called the Petty Sessional Court and Police Station, as it states in Gothic lettering on the side of the building. It was built in the 1800s and contained the court, the police station, and even housing for police officers. I loved the labels over the doorways, which indicated where the magistrates would enter and where commoners like me would be allowed to enter. Now let's visit our final one that got away at Longfords Mill near the town of Nailsworth. Nailsworth is another pretty cool market town, just 4 miles south of Stroud. Nowadays, it's a place tourists visit for its beautiful old buildings and charming shops. It's also a popular destination for walkers who enjoy hiking through the wooded valley in which it is situated. There are many old mills in this area along Gatcombe Water. This was all part of the thriving textile industry back in the Middle Ages. The Stroud area at one time had over 100 mills. There's evidence that a mill at Longfords existed back as early as 1304. One of our favorite Cotswold pubs is in the former Egypt mill nearby. We have had some very tasty meals there and love the location on the water. Now we are driving through the narrow roads in this heavily wooded countryside to our destination, Longfords Mill. This is our first time seeing this area around the flat we almost bought a few years back, sight unseen. So it's exciting to finally see it in person. At the end of this tree tunnel is Longfords Mill. The whole mill building, and then the part of the mill that we were looking to buy a flat in was called the yarn store, because this mill used to make yarn out of Cotswold wool, and the yarn was used, among other things, for making tennis balls that were used in Wimbledon. So here it is, the yarn store, apartment 7. That would have been our flat, but someone else bought it right before we could get it. And it's a really pretty area. There's more of the mill down here. I'm gonna go explore next to the water's edge. This was one of the things that appealed to us about the property, is being right here next to this rushing water. Such a calming sound right here next to where the flat is. And from the flat, it's just a few steps to this beautiful lake with ducks in it. Who knows, there might even be river otters in here. This obviously would have been a very beautiful, relaxing, oh, there's swans, and serene place to live, but it wouldn't have been very convenient in terms of transportation or stores, shops, restaurants. So I'm glad we live in Cheltenham, but this is a pretty cool place to live as well. I really enjoyed seeing the place we almost bought, which was in the part of the mill where the yarn was once stored. I also loved walking around this quiet community and seeing all the other parts of the mill, which are now charming cottages. The former spinners' cottages, where the spinners were, the dye house, where the yarn was dyed, and the weavers' cottages here. A delightful collection of historic and serene places to live. I hope you enjoyed watching this recap of the two most interesting places we almost ended up living in England. What are your thoughts on these places? Would you want to live in either of them or something like that? Or what is your dream home if you were going to do a conversion of a building that was originally built for another purpose? A railway station? A parish church? A water tower? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and do something good in the world today.